Welcome to the Gite podcast. Brought to you by Gite Guru.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this very specific webinar, starting and running a Gîte business in France. It is one of our Q&A sessions. I'm very fortunate to say I've got Rupert joining us today, the Gîte guru, and a ton of experience to be sat in this hot seat in particular. So thank you, Rupert.
My pleasure.
But whilst we wait for the questions to come in, do you want to talk about your experience to date?
So my husband and I moved to France 10 years ago, jacked in our careers in Amsterdam, and decided to move to rural France for a better quality of life. We set up 2 holiday homes, or gîtes, and have done everything we can to make them a success. And they're actually doing really, really well. And 5 years ago, on the back of the success of them, we set up Gîte Guru. So offering clients and also anyone through social media advice about running gîtes. And it's a really complicated thing, especially at the moment. There's a lot going on in French politics, and because of that, we don't know, for instance, what kind of taxes we're going to be paying next year, whether or not we have to charge VAT to our guests or not. So there's always stuff happening. It's not just you buy a property, put it on Airbnb, and then that's it for a couple of years. There's always stuff happening, and you have to keep on top of it, which is what we do, and share all the information with other people.
I mean, in terms of the changes, the political changes anyway, what sort of stuff should people be thinking out?
Every year, at the end of the year, the French government has to pass a budget for the following year. And in that budget are all the amendments to taxation. And this is now the 3rd year in a row that we are on this roller coaster of not actually knowing what taxes we're going to be paying next year. And sometimes we don't even know into the financial year, because the financial year in France is the calendar year. So it can be that we're months into the year before we actually find out what taxes we're going to be paying. And for those of you moving to France and starting any kind of business, there are 2 main kind of tax regimes you can choose between. There are more, but there are 2 principal ones. One is called micro-entrepreneur, and it's for small businesses. And it really tries to help small businesses by not requiring any bookkeeping to be done. And then there's a regime real, which is where you do full bookkeeping and you pay many more taxes, but you pay taxes on your profit. And for small businesses, you pay tax on your revenue. So they're 2 completely different ways of doing it. And what the government at the moment, well, for the past 3 years has been discussing is what is the threshold and the ceiling of your revenue in order for you to be a micro-entrepreneur or not. It's been swinging up and down like no one's business. So yeah, we don't actually know which type of business we're going to even have for next year. It's going to be quite last minute.
2 questions. All right, double bubble.
So what would I say are the top 3 considerations or factors when looking for a property? And what is the one thing you would do differently with your gîtes if you were able to go back in time? Oh, those good questions. So what should you consider when you're looking for a property? Well, I'm going to speak specifically about a property that has a gîte on it. So not just a property where you're going to live. I would say the most important things are it has to be a place that you yourself love, because you're either going to be living on the property alongside the gîte, or you're going to be living in it when you haven't got guests, if it's your second home. So you've got to adore the area and the actual property itself. Secondly, it's got to be accessible, both for you and for the guests. So there's no point being 3 hours from either a TGV station, as a high-speed train station, or an airport. And I think also really importantly, if you're going to live on the property alongside a gîte like we do, we're 20 meters away from our gîtes, then you have to consider privacy. It's one of the most fundamental things. And you might be prepared to live like a mouse and not make any noise and stay inside all the time. But it's more than that. If you're living there yourself, then you also need privacy from your guests. You know, you are hopefully going to live a lot of your year outside, and therefore you need not to hear your guests, and your guests need not to hear you, or perhaps see you as well. So those are just some of the considerations when you're looking for a property. I would say another really important one is you've got to come up with a business plan for any property that you're looking to buy. And you've got to work out how much money you're actually going to earn from the place. If you're going to have a 1-bedroom gîte on the property, you're not going to earn very much. If you've got a 5-bedroom gîte on the property, it has the potential to do much, much better. So you've really got to look at the figures before you start out. There's no point just hoping and praying that it's going to do well. You need some certainty before you start out.
Can I zone in on that before you talk about what you would do differently?
Yep.
The challenge I think a lot of people have is they go through the property portals online, potentially sourcing for places with the potential for Gîte business alongside it, and the estate agencies there will be listing, it's got X amount of outbuildings. And so fantastic for anyone looking to run a Gîte business. How do you quantify it from a snapshot there, or is there any sort of frameworks that you could provide that avoid people wasting their time going down avenues?
It's really tricky because estate agents on the whole don't want to give too much information away about the Gîte business itself. And I've asked estate agents why this is. Why don't you say, if it's an existing Gîte business that's being sold, why don't you say revenue is 70,000 a year in the details when you're trying to sell the place? Give all this information in front. People have got a really good idea of what the business already achieves. And yes, the answer that I get is that they're not selling the business, they're selling a property, and any business activity that happens on it is secondary and not included in the sale. And I've never really quite understood this. But anyway, you will always get limited information about existing Gîtes is doing, but just ask lots and lots of questions. And it is really important to come up with a business plan beforehand. Don't just fall in love with the place and assume there are going to be lots of tourists there.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the things that we do for clients when they've found a property that they really like and they want to make an offer on. If you're putting every penny you've got into this, and this is a major move for you and a major adventure, then don't just go into blind. We go and either view properties in person or do what we can online, and then come up with all the pros and cons and the business plan for it. And also, if we go and visit it, we come up with a kind of renovation plan. What would we do to improve the facilities and the layouts and the accommodation for guests? Just use your common sense, I think, and really think about the business plan. For those of you who need visas to come and live in France, then you're going to have to do a business plan anyway, which is really good. I think when we started out, we didn't need to do anything. We hoped it would all work out. So yeah, I think it's quite good now that you have to take it more seriously.
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. And so back to Kristen's question here. What would you have done differently?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I think we were so naive and we made so many mistakes at the beginning. My first instinct was to say I would have told myself 10 years ago to be reassured that it was all going to work out. But I think it's probably better not to know that. We did everything we could to ensure that our business was going to succeed. And I was looking at the figures today of our revenue for the past 10 years. And it did really take us 4 years to really kickstart the revenue. Well, year one is always rubbish because you haven't got reviews, you haven't got returning guests, you're not in the algorithm of Airbnb and Booking.com. So year one is always a bit messy. But in year 2 and 3, we thought we had fantastic years, and we actually only took half of what we're taking now, or less than half. What would we do differently? I think we had viewed 70 properties. We really knew what we wanted to offer guests. And we didn't compromise, even when we were told rather a few times by people we didn't have the right budget for what we wanted to achieve. We just carried on, and we didn't compromise with what we thought were the most important criteria for what we were looking for. We were very certain about what we wanted to do. We were very naive. We made loads of mistakes, but what would we do differently with the Gîtes? I think we've got pretty much everything right along the way. There's one thing we're doing differently this year after 10 years. When we first came here, we questioned whether we should have air conditioning. So we're in the Dordogne, which is kind of 2 hours east of Bordeaux. We're not in the south of France. And when we came here 10 years ago, we would probably have 3 days each summer that were above 35 degrees. The rest of the time, it would be under 35 degrees. And all of the local people here have shutters that they use during the day to keep the hot air and the sunlight out. And we've got thick stone walls. So it's a kind of temperature control system instead of having air conditioning. But now, last year, we had probably 12 days above 35 degrees, and about 7 of them were in succession. It was a whole week of really, really hot weather, and it didn't cool down at night. And so I think we are literally experiencing climate change, and that we have now decided to try and put airco in to some of the upstairs bedrooms where it does get really hot. And I'm quite surprised we've made that decision, because we were adamant 10 years ago we didn't need it. Maybe I would have told myself 10 years ago how much fun we're going to have and how our guests are going to become part of our social life, because we live on site, we live very close, we have a lot of contact with guests before they come. We have a whole kind of concierge service and offer to help out to ensure that their holiday is as good as possible. We didn't realize how much fun actually we were going to have with guests and being invited for drinks and dinner. And we have some guests that, have come back every year bar COVID. And we've seen the kids grow up, and it's been really good fun. And we have quite long seasons. So we rent out for over 30 weeks a year. So we're more often with guests on the property than we are without.
Actually, Gigi's just asked a really good follow-up question based on your aircon switch.
If you have a listed building, Gigi, I don't know which country you're from, but I think there are different terms used in lots of countries. In the UK, you talk about listed buildings. So they are buildings that are literally on a list and you can't make changes to them without permission. In France, you have monument historique. And I think the rule is that if you have a historical monument, or you are within 500 meters as the crow flies from a historic monument, so from a church or a chateau or anything like that, then you do need approval. Obviously, in any building, if you're going to change the footprint or put in windows or doors, then you need approval anyway. Or if you're going to change the roof tiles or the shutter color or anything like that, you do need to go and talk to your mairie, your village hall, and the mayor first. So our building is not a monument historique, but it is 16th century. So it is historic, but it's not listed. And we don't need approval for it, because we're not going to be changing anything about the actual building itself. It's just going to be going through part of the roof. And so it's very easy to do.
What sort of things do you need to go and get approval for since you've taken on the place?
So you need approval to have a swimming pool or to renew your swimming pool. You pay extra tax on your swimming pool. And that's very important. So firefighters know where swimming pools are. So they all have to be registered. If you are going to change the use of the buildings, so if you have a barn that was for agricultural use and you want to live in it, rent it out as a gîte, then obviously you need to change the use of that building. So you have permission for that. Windows, doors, anything like that.
So, yeah, interesting question. This, I guess, probably how you spend a lot of your day.
Are there formats to follow to set out a business plan? I'm sure there are, especially with ChatGPT and stuff. It'll probably write it for you. But it's all about deciding on what your product is going to be, who is going to be using your product, and then to think about the actual business part, so the revenue and the profit and loss part of it. If you're setting up a Gîte for the first time, it's going to be really difficult to come up with a list of costs and to try and work out actually how much is the insurance and how much are you going to spend on loo roll and how much is it going to cost Airbnb commission. Those are all things that you're actually only going to find out when you're up and running. But you can really try and look at revenue. If it's a Gîte that you're buying, an existing Gîte, just be aware that you need to check out first whether the figures you're being given are true. But you really need to think about who is your Gîte going to serve? What are its unique selling points? And how long do you think you can rent it out and at what price? And then you have the first part of a business plan.
I find it really interesting thinking about when you say the product. and who you're offering it to, because I guess the trap is you could overgeneralize very, very quickly, right? You could just go, well, anyone who wants to vacation in France.
Yeah, but you will find along the way, it might be, again, quite general. Our top target group are families because we have a big place and we have a 5-bed gîte and a 1-bed cottage. And that lends itself perfectly to intergenerational families. So the grandparents who pay for the holiday go and stay in the 1-bedroom cottage and have their own space and can get away from everyone. Kids and the kids are all in the 5-bed house and, wake each other up early in the morning. So we knew families would be really important. We didn't quite get how it would be so important for intergenerational families. And we also have a lot of groups of friends who come, who often celebrate big birthdays or meet each other from different countries around the world. They all come here to meet up. And again, the fact that we have ensuite bathrooms to all the bedrooms facilitates that brilliantly. So those are kind of the two biggest target groups we've got. So they can be quite general, but not only have you got the target group, but you've also got the nationalities. So you can think about who is actually going to be coming to stay. We came from the Netherlands, and so we know how to market to Dutch people. We're only 10 hours plus drive from the Netherlands, so this is a very popular area among the Dutch, and yet we hardly have any Dutch bookings whatsoever. So our product,
interesting.
We were really surprised actually. Our product just doesn't hit what certain Dutch people or what the majority of Dutch people are looking for. Are we too expensive? I'm not sure that's the case. Are we too big? I just don't know what it is. But in the last 10 years, we just haven't got bookings from Dutch people and nor from French. The Dordogne is a very popular place for English and Dutch to come to, but it's not a popular holiday destination for the French. They all want to go to the coast or the south of France or, to Corsica and places like that. And this is not a place that the French would think of coming on holiday to.
I'm really surprised that.
That's why your business plan is really important, because you don't want to over-egg it. If somebody's going to tell you can earn 70,000 from your gîtes, then you've got to really look into it, because not many people do. You can earn much more, you can earn much less. It's all in the kind of property that you buy and how you market it. We spend a lot of time and effort marketing. We're in newspapers all the time. We've been on TV. And we do anything we can to make our product visible to the right kind of people. So yeah, it's all about how much time you have. If you're somebody who, you and your partner have full-time jobs and you live abroad and you have a second home in France, then oftentimes you're going to hand your marketing and management of the property over to a third party.
Yeah.
They put you on several websites and just hope some bookings come in. But you can be much more proactive than that.
Very interesting. Shikha has come up with 2 questions here.
Good questions. So what are some common mistakes when renovating old stone houses for gîtes? I don't know. If you've got an old stone house, then it should have tons of character and charm. So the only thing that pops up into my mind is some clients of ours have got a very nice gîte in an old building, but when they bought it, the previous owners had plasterboarded the whole of the inside. So none of the stone walls were visible on the inside, but they are visible on the outside. And there was some commentary by quite a smart booking platform that they weren't the right kind of property for them because there was too much plasterboard. There wasn't enough of the character and charm. And they said, from the inside, when we're standing in the gîte, we don't know whether you're in Denmark or Spain or London. It's just a plasterboarded box. When you go outside, then it's really obvious where you are. And so I think that's really important, is don't hide those characteristics that are not only charming and characterful, but also show where the location is. And also try and think about who your target group is, because when people go on holiday, they don't just want somewhere to go to sleep and have a shower. They want to experience what it's like to live as a local. So if you can have a double height room in the house, sitting room, for instance, that's double height. Most people don't have that at home, so they love it. If you can put in ensuite bathrooms for all the bedrooms, again, not everyone has that at home. So not only are you giving them the chance to live like a local, but you give them that slightly kind of aspirational, exciting thing of letting them stay in somewhere that has something completely different to what they have at home. So Yeah, keep the charm and character and think about what your guests want from the place. Your second question is really good about what upgrades can you give the best return on investment. Well, I specifically talk about France here. So when people come to France on holiday, they expect to spend a lot of time outdoors. That becomes slightly problematic when they book to go to Brittany or Normandy because it often rains there. But even so, they are hoping that their holiday is going to be one spent outdoors. And in order to enjoy the outdoors a lot, not only do you need lots of dining areas, but you need a pool. So you will see that the majority of gîtes in Brittany and Normandy, for instance, in the north of France, the Pas-de-Calais, that there'll be a much smaller number of gîtes that have pools. And if you go to the south of France, then virtually all gîtes will have pools. And so a pool is a really important investment in order to attract people. And then having a heated pool is even better. So again, for instance, in the south of Spain, nobody has heated pools because you just don't need them. In France, though, you probably do. If we have a 30-week season, it is probably only 6 to 9 weeks of that when we don't need to heat the pool. The rest of the time we do in order to make sure it's 28 degrees or so. We renovated our pool about 5 years ago, and it was unheated before, put in a new pool and made it heated. And one of the reasons we did that was because we actually had people saying, "Oh, we want to book October half term and come with the kids. Have you got a heated pool?" And we'd say, "No, we don't, but you can still swim in it. It'll be freezing, but you can still swim." And then they didn't book. So by having a heated pool, you are going to help extend your season and you can charge more money. So putting in the pool that we put in cost us 63,000 euros. And we worked out that we could pay that back in either extra bookings that we wouldn't have got and increased rates, because we could put our rates up, that we could cover the cost of that in 6 years. And in fact, I think we probably covered it in about 4. So yeah, that is really, really important. Now, hot tubs, I don't know. It's a really tricky one. I think hot tubs maybe are a good idea if you just can't get a pool in because you haven't got the space. Or if it's for couples, you're not going to spend 63,000 putting a pool in for a couple, and then you're just never going to make your money back. So a hot tub could be a good idea for that. Beware, though, that the cleaning and the hygiene of a hot tub is very important, and you are going to have to be cleaning it out quite a lot. The other things, we put in an EV charger at huge expense a couple of years ago because we had to, dig trenches to get the cable from the fuse board to the right place in the car park. And anyway, it cost an absolute fortune. And again, we thought, because on Airbnb, we can actually say we have an EV charger for guests to use, and guests can filter the properties that they search for, on things like an EV charger. We thought we would get bookings on the back of that, and we haven't in 2 years. We have had guests who've turned up in rental cars that have been electric, but not because they knew that we had an EV charger. They just wanted electric cars or were given them. So yeah, that hasn't been such a good investment, I have to say. And the other thing is air conditioning. Unfortunately, more and more of us are going to have to think about that, because it's not just the cost of putting air conditioning in, it's also the cost of running it. And I can tell you that this coming summer, if I see all the windows and doors wide open and I can see on my app on my phone that the air conditioning's on 18 degrees and it's 35 degrees outside, I will cry. Our electricity bill is going to be horrific.
Well, we'll see how that one plays out, I would imagine. It's quite a good question, this from Cynthia, just feeding back to your own experience. Was the pool did you install the pool? Was there a pool in the place when you bought it?
There was a pool here when we bought it, but it wasn't heated. It didn't have a cover, wasn't very big, and it was falling apart. So we really had to do something about it. And you can renovate an existing pool. There's no reason you can't do that. A lot of pools in France have liners. So around us, there's a lot of clay in the soil. So the earth moves a lot when there's a drought or when it's terribly wet. So because of that, we can't have a tiled or a fiberglass pool around us. And liners only last for about 10 years. So you do need to refurbish them every 10 years anyway. The equipment also goes after a while. So it all depends on the existing pool that you have. Funnily enough, so we we had a pool already, and we then were going to rip it out, put a new pool in. And the pool guy said, do you want the new pool in exactly the same place or not? Because we don't care. We literally dig another hole wherever you do want it and shift the earth from one place to another.
Ah, okay.
It's really surprised us, actually. So that does allow you then to really think through where you'd want the pool. When we bought the property, there are now 3 houses on it, and we're living in one of the smaller houses. We're not living in the big house. We rent that out in order to earn lots of money. So it's very important for us that the pool is nowhere near our house because we don't use it, but very close to the big house. So yeah, you can just decide what to do. But you have to get permission from your mairie, just like a building permit. You have to get that either to renovate or install a new pool. Renovate as in change the footprint of it or the depth or anything like that.
Makes sense. Well, William, thank you for joining this Q&A. Thanks for the question too. It's quite an interesting run around timing. Obviously not a challenge you had when you came over.
I'm afraid I can't really talk about visas. I'm very lucky that I moved here pre-Brexit and then became Dutch so that I didn't have to deal with any of the consequences of it. So I think that you only have to earn a small amount of money from your Gîte, though. If I'm right, I'm guessing now, but I think it's something 1,000 a year that you have to earn from your Gîte in order to get a visa. That's not a huge amount. If you've only got a 1-bed Gîte, then it is going to be quite a challenge to earn that kind of money. But if you've got a 2 or certainly 3 or more bedroom Gîte, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem to earn that kind of money. It all depends on when you're going to open. So are you able to open, say, from April, May, or are you still renovating and getting everything ready or buying the property and not actually able to open until July? Say, okay, you're going to earn lots of money in July and August, but the cumulative total of what you can also earn in May and June is a lot of money. So yeah, it all kind of depends on that. You might be buying an existing Gîte property. If so, then you should be able to prove what the revenue is going to be.
I mean, just going back on the fact that you viewed 70 properties before you found the right one, might suggest, William, you'd be better off starting on a visitor visa, so you can conduct that research thoroughly.
I'm afraid I don't know anything about that at all. It's a can of worms, this whole visa thing, and anyone moving here who needs a visa should be getting an expert like Valerie Aston, who you've spoken to before, to help you and to help you to make the decisions about which kind of visa is right for you specifically with the plans you've got in place and the schedule you've got. And they will be able to lead you through the process as well.
What have we got here? Okay. Shika's back. Thank you again.
To determine the right price per night when launching the Gîte. Don't be too greedy. I mean, it's this age-old thing of, is it bums on seats? Are you just wanting to get as much occupancy as you can at whatever price you can? Or are you going to hold out for the big bucks? Your season is going to be shorter, but you're going to be getting top dollar for the weeks that are rented out. And that's all down to what your costs are. You know, if you are living abroad and you're paying a large amount of money to a management team who are cleaning the Gîte and welcoming guests, then perhaps you don't want a massively long season with perhaps lower prices, but you want to get full whack, top dollar for any weeks that you can.
It's a really interesting value equation there. There's like a sense of critical mass on that. If you've got X amount of returning clients, then you can afford to be a bit more confident with pricing. How long did it take for you guys to build up that stature?
We actually, in the first year, we had somebody return, somebody who came in July, then rebook for August, which we're thrilled about. And now 60% of our bookings are returning guests. So we have a cohort of very, very loyal guests. They're not loyal to us. They just love the fact that we have a product that completely suits what they're looking for and their makeup of their group. So yeah, returning guests are hugely important. You're not paying commission to anyone when they book through you again. They know the property and they're really happy with it. You know them as guests. They're not on your blacklist. So you're happy to have them back.
I know you love this question.
Well, yeah, you have to be just visible through any platform you can possibly find. There are lots and lots of free platforms that you can use, including things like LinkedIn. You know, if you've got a network on LinkedIn of, I think Frank and I, between us, have something like 2,000 Dutch people from our careers in the Netherlands. I can't remember 90% of them. We've had quite a few bookings through LinkedIn, funnily enough. And yeah, just try and be as visible as possible.
How possible is it to exist without these major platforms these days, though?
We exist without them now, not through choice, but because they just don't work for us anymore. You have to keep the bookings coming in through them in order to stay relevant on their platform, to be visible on their platform. The only way you can find us on Airbnb is if you zoom in on about a kilometer square of their map, and then you'll find us. If you try and filter to find us, you never will, because we haven't had a booking in 4 or 5 years. So we have disappeared down that black hole. It's strange because with the 30-week season, you know, we do really well with our marketing and people want to come and stay. And these people who see us on TV in the afternoon on a Thursday on Channel 4, they are also people who are using Airbnb. So it's not a different target group, but we just don't work on Airbnb and Booking.com. Airbnb has also brought in new rules recently that are not very Gîte friendly. They allow guests to cancel up to 30 days before their holiday and get all of their money back. Well, for a Gîte that often takes bookings of a week or longer, that's killing. You're never going to get another booking unless it's August. You're not going to get another booking 31 days before the holiday's meant to start. So there are quite a lot of restrictions now that mean that these big platforms maybe aren't as good for us as they used to be. But saying that, Google is trying to get in on the action and they are free. They don't charge us anything. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming years what else we can do outside of Airbnb and Booking.com. But certainly there are so many platforms and a lot of them, or channels, and a lot of them are free. So it's absolutely fantastic.
That black hole kind of terrifies me a little bit, I guess.
It is quite scary to think that we're just not found on any of these platforms. And this is where millions of people are looking for holiday. I mean, if you sign up to Airbnb, the first thing they will suggest you do is that you give the first 3 people who book a discount of 20%. Now, again, if you've got a bed and breakfast or a second bedroom that you're renting out for 1 or 2 nights, 20% is quite painful, but it's not a huge amount of money. If you've got a 5-bedroom Gîte that you're renting out for a week, it is really painful. And if you decide not to do that, the first 3 people get 20% discount, then again, you are put further down the search rankings. All the people who have offered that discount are going to be higher up, because all
really aggressive
is having happy guests. They're not really that bothered about the owners. They want really happy guests. And how do you make a guest happy? You give them 20% off.
Gosh, though. I mean, your equivalent is just giving a bed free each time. That's mad. No, okay.
So yeah, no, it's all fun and games, but you'll certainly have to depend on them when you start out and then see how it goes later on.
I think the question to stop now, guys.
I think to kind of conclude it all, it is the most wonderful way of life because you get to live in a beautiful part of France and earn money, and it doesn't matter what your French is like or what your past experience is. You don't need qualifications to do this. So yeah, it's a wonderful way of living your life.
For sure. Beautifully summed up. I've got to say, I've really loved the depth and texture of each of the answers you've given, Rupert, on this one. So thank you for sharing your journey. And Rupert, you've been fantastic. Merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous. Au revoir.